had time out today to attend, and also the staff and students who have came along. Before we begin, please take note of the following housekeeping rules. We're pleased to have the BCoT Gazette with us today. We'll be taking photographs throughout the event. One minute. Okay, yeah. The college will also be filming and taking photos for social media. You can join the discussion on hashtag FE Student Debate. If you do not want to appear in any photos or film, we'll be live streaming the session to multiple locations around college. My colleague Charlie James on the door will direct you to the rooms. Please feel free to move now to these locations, and notes filming and photography will commence from this point onwards. We will not be expecting a fire alarm today. If the alarm sounds, please exit via either set of these doors at the front of the room and report to the closest fire assembly point, which is north site lower car park, down the stairs and at the back of the college. Staff members will be around to direct you. And then after the session, or for the first half of the session, candidates will be answering the pre-submitted questions. Afterwards, we'll open the questions to the floor. If you wish to ask a question, please raise your hand and please keep questions as brief as possible so we can get through as many as we can. Finally, please be respectful of all candidates and fellow audience members and refrain from interrupting others. Now a few words from Anthony Bravo.
Thank you. What was it called? The hashtag FE?
Student debate.
Student debate. Yeah. I'm going to tweet about this, obviously. Student debate. First of all, I'd like to say how proud I am of my students turning up and actually showing that they care about the future, because I know most of you probably can't vote, but you will be in a position very shortly where you will be able to. And it's really important that we do remember how lucky we are to live in a democracy. We take it for granted the fact that we have a right to vote and we have got a right to choose whichever candidate we want. Remember, not all countries have that, and then not all countries have a reasonable choice of people who they can choose from. And we've got obviously Conservatives, Labour, Social Democrats and Allen and Independent. So we have a number of really good people here who we can ask the questions to. And it sounds a bit deep, but you've got to remember, people actually died for your right to vote. They died, they went to war and died. Young people, not much older than you. So it's really important and incumbent upon you that you do take advantage of the opportunity to vote, because if you don't, they've died in vain and it's actually a waste. And one of the terrible things that happens is if you don't exercise your democratic rights, they will get taken away and they will get eroded. So you must vote when you get older. I will say that when you do vote, your right is to hold these people to account. They work for you, all right? Politicians work for you the same, and I know you don't always believe it, that I work for you. I am confident whoever wins will become or remain a good friend of this college, all right? I'm absolutely confident about that. That's all I'm going to say, other than you must vote, all right? You must vote. Next time it comes around to register, you must register to vote and ask good questions. If your lesson is due to start before the debate ends, you can be late for your lesson, okay? I don't want people getting up and walking out, because that's quite rude, okay? Apart from me, because I've got 20 Chinese people coming over to learn about apprentices, so I've got to go and talk to them in a moment. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to hand back to my co-host. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay. Now, each candidate will have a few minutes to introduce themselves, and then we'll move on to the pre-selected questions. So I'm going to hand over left to right. So we're going to start with Karina Marchant now.
Unlike the other candidates, I'm not a professional politician at all. I'm a mum of a young person about the same age as you. And the reason I'm sitting here is because this election is about his future. And I'm very worried about him and his children and their future. And that's why I've decided to stand. This election is about you. We are now at a crossroads that will determine your future and the future of your children. I don't have to tell you about climate crisis. We know that we've already reached tipping points, and if we don't reduce carbon emissions to 1.5% by 2030, we will reach the point of almost no return, and there may not be a planet for your descendants. There is no planet B. And for the Labour Party, climate crisis is what leads our manifesto. It's the first part of our manifesto, and it goes through all our policies. I also want to make sure that you have lifelong education that is free for all, that you can tap into throughout your life. I want to make sure that you have good jobs that pay you a living wage, so that you don't have to live with your parents until you're in your 30s, so you can afford your own affordable homes. I want to make sure that you've got an NHS service that is there for you from cradle to grave and will support you when you have your own children. I want a future for you, and that's why I'm standing.
I'm the Conservative candidate at the general election on the 12th of December. Before I stood for Parliament, I worked in business for 20 years, and that was after I'd gone to a comprehensive school, very much like the one you probably went to in Basingstoke, and then went on to university. And I think it's important that we have more people in Parliament who've got that sort of real world experience, because if we don't, then we don't have people who are going to be able to make the right decisions for the future of their country. Like Karina, I'm a mum, I've got 3 children, and I know how important it is that we give every child in Basingstoke the opportunity for a good education. And you're fortunate to go to an excellent college here at BCoT, which will give you fantastic opportunities for the future. But the reason why we're here today talking about a general election is that whilst in 2017 all the major parties stood on a platform to get Brexit done and to honour the referendum that was held in 2016, unfortunately we had a parliament that decided to ignore that and to not to take the action that was needed to enable the UK to leave the EU as had been voted on in 2016. Frankly, a parliament that thought it knew better than those people who voted in the referendum. That's why a general election is being called, and that's why we're voting on the 12th of December. And this election is the most important election in a generation, not only because it will help determine the future of not just our community but the whole country, but also it will be an important message about what sort of democracy we have in this country. Because our democracy is a democracy that respects the results at the ballot box and doesn't choose to ignore an election result or a referendum result simply because people don't agree with it. Do you know what? We leave that to dictators in South America. We need to make sure that we honour the result of the referendum, and at this election you've only got one choice if you want to do that. The Conservative Party are pledged to honour the referendum, they're pledged to get Brexit done so we can move on and tackle the things that really matter to our community here, whether that's building a new hospital, whether that's more police in the community, or tackling our climate crisis. So you have a clear choice this election, and I hope when it comes to it you're able to use your vote. Thank you.
You want me to introduce myself? Okay. The reason I asked that is, my name is Sashi Malvagnam, because my name is elongated. I know Brad was going to actually struggle with my surname, so I thought I'll help him up. I'm a chartered accountant. You know what? When I was requested or invited to attend this, I was pleased to come here because my association with Hampshire goes back 45 years. I was 21 when I went to Farnborough College of Technology, where I did, like some of you, an HND. I did an HND in business studies to supplement a degree I had, which the Institute of Chartered Accountants at that time did not recognize. That helped me. I actually went on to the West End in London, became a chartered accountant. My association with Hampshire goes a very, very long way. I mean, people may say I live in Surrey. Yes, I do. It's only 25 minutes down the road in Camberley. So it's not very far. It's not far as some people, other people. Having said all this, why am I standing? Because I represent the Liberal Democrats. The Liberal Democrats have been absolutely clear in our policies. Liberal Democrat is one party which is actually truly standing for the young people. We are a Remain party. We have never wavered from it. From the time the referendum took place to every election, we have stood on one platform and one platform alone. That is to remain within the EU. Because it's your future we are protecting. We believe you are better off as part of the EU than on your own. We have the biggest market at our doorsteps. We want to be cutting ourselves away and trying to do trade deals. You will understand a little bit better if you guys do actually business studies, and you would understand trading is not as easy as they make it out to be. You have to have a deal. Whereas Boris Johnson, his only ambition in Boris Johnson is for Boris Johnson himself. Not you, not his children, not anyone else. Not even for the Conservative Party. He actually wants to be a king of the world. And he I'm sorry to say this, he cannot be a prime minister. He will lead us into total disaster. Thank you for your time.
Hello, I'm Alan Stone. I run a shop in the town centre and I'm standing as an independent candidate. I will not be working for you because the chances of me winning against the party system is horrendous. You're not going to do it as an independent in this country at the moment. Not until we change our voting system to some form of proportional representation that gives everybody, that's everybody, a chance to win seats and win power and win influence in the way the political system works. At present, the Labour Party want to give billions of pounds away. Now that will, as a businessman, I know if you borrow money, at some point you have to pay it back. It'll probably come back within your lifetimes. So the freebies that you're being offered by some parties are going to come back and bite you in the backside. The Conservatives, they pretend that austerity is over. I don't believe it started yet. This country is trillions of pounds in debt. Again, that is going to come back and bite us. We are going to have to repay it at some point very soon. Anyway, on the nice things, I've worked within Basingstoke now for 40 odd years, 50 years. I started my politics in Basingstoke over a parking issue, which became a problem. They took away the free parking in the town, and they're doing it again. If you write to your local councillor in Basingstoke and ask him why they are taking away the free parking at the top of town area, or her, yeah, there are some hers. I think the Basingstoke town centre ones are all men, funnily enough. Please write to them, please ask them to reinstate the parking so that we can still have free parking in the top of the town. Thank you.
Alright, thank you very much. So to kick off, we have a few pre-selected questions based off of the most commonly raised issues submitted for these questions. Each candidate will have up to 5 minutes to answer all 3 questions. We'll open these questions up to the floor. So the first question will be asked by Marcus.
How will you address the growing problems with gangs, drugs and knife crime in the Basingstoke and Dean area?
How will you address the gang, knife and drug crimes going on in the area? Then we have a question about minimum wage from Eleanor.
Do you think it's right that 16 to 24-year-olds are paid less than older colleagues, especially if they're doing the same job? Do you plan to address this in the Parliament?
Say just for everyone else, do you think it's right for 16 to 24-year-olds that are paid less than other older colleagues, especially if they're doing the same job? Do you have plans to address this in Parliament? And then finally, we have a question of education asked by Emily.
Do you believe that education should be free for everyone? How will you ensure a high quality education for all, including those undertaking vocational educational apprenticeships?
Okay, and then do you believe that education should be free for everyone? How will you ensure a high quality education for all, including those undertaking vocational education or apprenticeships? So this time we'll go right to left. So we'll start with Alan.
How are we going to address the growing knife problems and the drug problems in Basingstoke? I have thought about that for quite a long time. I've even put it in my leaflet, which some of you have seen. I think it is about time that we accepted the war on drugs has been lost and started looking at legalisation and maybe free spaces where drugs can be taken cleanly and under the supervision of medical staff. That way we'll take the money out of the criminals' hands. If the money's not there, the criminals will not be getting involved with it. That will of course stop any knife problems associated with drugs. So I think decriminalisation and maybe legalisation is without a doubt the way to go. At the moment, nobody knows in this country how many people are involved with drugs, how many people take drugs. I've had many conversations with police, social workers and the medical profession on this subject, and they're all agreeing with me that there is a problem that cannot be resolved by criminalising drug users and criminalising everyone associated with it. Currently, if you go and buy your drugs, you have no idea what's in them. There's no control over it. My brother-in-law died of heroin overdose because the heroin he bought was a lot stronger than the stuff he'd been used to. That is the biggest problem with drug use, is you don't actually know what you're taking. So there we are. On question 2, 16 to 24-year-olds getting the same pay. Well, if they're doing exactly the same job, then yes, they should. I employ people in my shop and everybody gets the same pay because everybody does the same work. Should you need somebody who has got more life experiences, then maybe they should get paid more. So there are some jobs where I think experience comes into it, and people with more experience should get more money for their job. So whether it needs to be addressed in Parliament or not, I think local economics will have a lot to do with it. You know, one of my other shops is hungry for staff at the moment, so they're offering more money than standard wages. And the market forces do tend to balance things out. So morally, if you're doing the same work, you should certainly get the same pay. We all have the ability to move jobs if we want to. We don't have to stay with somebody that's paying a lot less than we think we're worth. Move when you've got a job to go to. Free education, nothing's free in life. Get used to it. Education costs somebody, and if everybody spent all of their life in universities and higher education, nobody will be working and paying for it, so it'll all go wrong. Some jobs, some vocationals should certainly be free. I think that the STEM ones should be free for everybody right the way up to the university, as long as there's some commitment from university graduates that they'll stay in this country and work for some period of time after they've had their free education, so they can put something back into society and help pay for what they've already had free.
It's okay. Sashi is good enough. I can live with Sashi. When I become the MP, also call me Sashi. Drugs. Drugs is actually a menace. Truly is a menace. What we don't truly understand is the types of drugs we have. You have the cannabis, you have the chemical drugs. Cannabis, we believe, should be legalized, because if you don't legalize cannabis, it'll go underground like it has done today, and it becomes a money-making machine for the gangs. That's where the county gangs come into play, because they are making money out of kids. Because they take the kids, move them from county to county. One guy makes money. So you need a user, you need a dealer, and you need the supplier. If you get the user to go to a, say, cannabis user, to go to a legitimate shop and buy the cannabis, they're out of the picture, totally out of the picture. Whereas the Tory party has got one solution: build more prisoners. prison rooms. They're actually budgeting for 10,000 more prisons, not prisoners, so that they can lock them up. That's a general idea. I mean, we know what happened in the last week about their policy on prisoners anyway, but leave that aside. The other part is the crime itself is not policed. You get the chemical drugs like the heroin, the cocaines. Who is actually policing it? We don't have any police. We have lost 20,000 policemen under the Tory government. If you continue to vote for the Tories, that's what it'll continue, because if you look at their budgets very carefully today, they have no budget. It's all words from a man called Boris Johnson. If you trust Boris, you have a problem, because we have a problem. We as a country have a problem. So do you trust Boris, or do you trust the real budgets which we have produced here today? I'll go on to the second one. Second one is actually it's close to my heart. Although I said I was a chartered accountant, I spent 35 years in the industry as a finance director in retail and in technology. We always believed, even if a youngster comes off a polytechnic like this or the technical college like this, we would pay according to your skills. More experience you get on top of your qualification, we would pay you accordingly. We would not look at your age and say you're too young to earn. That's not the way I ran a business. I ran a business according to ability rather than your age, because I have children too. Karina and Maria are mothers. I'm a father. There's a big difference. I'm a male. So hence, I actually have two kids, and both these kids are educated. And I like to think they're being paid at the right wage, because that's the way we should run our society. You cannot discriminate youngsters because of their age. Lastly, education should be free. Absolutely, I believe it should be free. But, like Alan said, it's not going to be free for a long time to come, because the system has been kicked off where we are charging fees for the kids. But we have bursaries, we have scholarships, we have within our budgets, we're actually putting roughly £1 billion into education, £10 billion into infrastructure. In total, if you look at these budgets, which you can get a copy from me once you finish, 25% of our manifesto, 25% of our manifesto is based for you, for education, your future, because we believe you are the future. You absolutely are the future for this country. We want to look after you. We believe in democracy. We want you to live in a inclusive society, not an excluded society, not in a little island where we are cut away from the rest of the world. That is what Brexit will give you. We are a Remain party. I repeat, we are a Remain party. We will fight for Remain all the way to. In order to achieve that, you folks here, the youngsters, need to fight for your future by voting Lib Dems. Thank you.
The three people that asked those questions are absolutely right. Those are the issues that members of Parliament, the House of Commons, the House of Lords should be focusing in on after December the 12th. But you know what? If we haven't sorted out our situation with the EU, we won't be thinking about education, we won't be thinking about policing, we won't be thinking about the prosperity of our country. We'll still have a Parliament that's bickering over a referendum that happened 3 years ago. And I don't think that's right. And based on your questions so far today, I think you can see there are other priorities that we need to focus on. Because when it comes to crime, I think one of the most concerning things I've seen about crime in Basingstoke over the last decade is the changing face of that crime. When I sit down with the Chief of Police here and he tells me that crime levels overall are going down, which is something which we should be pleased about, but the serious crime, the sexual assaults, the knife crimes, and worse, and we've seen that in Basingstoke recently, that those are the crimes that are starting to emerge. then we have got a serious problem, not just here in Basingstoke, but throughout the country. And yes, I mean, I'm standing on a platform to have more police working in our community in Basingstoke so we can root out the people who are coming from Essex, as they did recently, to what they call cuckoo in Basingstoke, and create gang warfare related to drug dealing. But that has a spillover effect for the rest of us who aren't involved in the drug trade, but are involved in our communities, and we have to root that out. And that's why I'm campaigning in this election for more police in our communities, working in the community to root those problems out. When it comes to jobs, the second question, we are incredibly fortunate in Basingstoke that we have record levels of employment. And many of you here in Basingstoke at this college will know the opportunities that you've got open to you because you are at an excellent college studying for incredibly useful qualifications. But you raise the issue of pay and whether it's fair that everybody, that people who are younger get paid the same as people who are older. There are already laws in place that will make sure that over your lifetime you will have legal redress if you feel you're not being paid fairly. But what is really important is that when you start out in life, and perhaps for those who haven't had the opportunity of getting qualifications and are starting on a minimum wage, that the Low Pay Commission, that is an independent non-political body, says it's really important that when it comes to the minimum wage, there is the opportunity for employers, if they choose to, some may not choose to be able to pay a lower wage to younger individuals, to be able to give them an opportunity of getting their foot on the ladder. Now, that's what the Low Pay Commission says, and that includes trade unions, academics, business representatives, and other organisations. And it may be that employers disagree with that and want to pay the same to people who are older, and that's fair as well. When it comes to educational opportunities and that being free to everybody, well, the reason I'm standing for election again is because when I left my comprehensive school at the age of 18 and went on to university, I didn't find very many people like me at my university, and I just didn't think that was fair. A lot of the people who were there with me had gone to grammar schools, and I didn't think it was fair. So I've stood for election and made it my priority to make sure that in Basingstoke more people have a fair opportunity to have the best education. And particularly, I want to make sure that the new school that's going to be opened in Basingstoke next year for people with a learning disability goes ahead. And I'm really worried that under Labour it wouldn't, because it will be a free school for children aged 5 to 16, a school that we don't have at the moment and I think we badly need, so that regardless of your ability or disability, you get the same opportunity for an excellent education. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you who came to my Register to Vote days at Festival Place. It was really good to talk to you about the things that worry you. And knife crime was one of the things that worry you. And you told me about how you feel about your mental health, which is one of the causes of knife crime. So I've done a lot of homework for you. There are about 2,500 children in Basingstoke and young people with mental health. There are 187 young people in Basingstoke who are homeless. There are a number of young people in Basingstoke who are failing in their education because 7 out of 11 secondary schools are rated below average. And this is what sows the seed of knife crime and crime. And these are the things that a Labour government is going to work very hard to get rid of. 24% of children in Basingstoke are living in poverty. And I am pledged by the end of the first term in office to get rid of this. County lines is something that worries me because I know a lot of young people are trapped into county lines because of their vulnerability. There are 33 children in Hampshire who've been arrested for county lines, and children are brainwashed into couriering drugs for county line traffickers. And I pledged to the Children's Society and End Poverty to work with the police and the Home Office to bring new legislation that will make county lines traffickers face not just drugs offences, which is what they currently face, but slavery offences as well. We need more police. Are you good at maths? The Conservative government and Liberal Democrat coalition government have taken away 21,000 police officers, and they're now only going to replace 20,000 police officers. So the question is, are they going to put back all the police officers they took away? Labour is going to put 22,000 police officers back in. So if you look at Hampshire, you've only got 156 police officers back this year, and if you look in the Tory manifesto, Grey Book, they haven't cost it anymore. To move on to jobs and wages, I'm a member of BCoT and I work in the film industry, and I think it's appalling that minimum wage for an apprentice is £3.90. I will not pay that. I will pay you the same as we get paid, and it's my duty to train you to give back to the industry in the future. I think a minimum wage of £6.15 is absurd for the under nines. We are going to give a minimum wage of £10 to everybody, and because we appreciate that you have to take out loans to get cars or pay expensive bus fares, under 25s will have free bus passes. We believe that education is a conveyor belt that you get onto and you get off, and we think that education should be free for all throughout your life. You can either cut education or you can invest in education, and Angela Rayner says invest, and I agree with her. If you go to university, you give back to society. If you decide later on you want to try a new skill, you give back to society. Education should be free for all. My son is at university to build the ecological homes of the future, and he's an investment. But his disabled students' allowance has been taken away, so I am paying for his interpreters so that he can be our investment in the future.
Some people don't know what county lines is. County lines is where basically drug dealers from England, from London, will find a vulnerable person, send them to Basingstoke with a whole load of drugs, and get them to stay in a house and sell all the drugs. And if they try and get away, they'll beat them up or do bad things to them. So it's basically getting vulnerable people from London or around and moving them around, transporting drugs. Okay, that makes sense? Cheers. Right, I've got to leave you now, I'm afraid, to go and visit my Chinese. Thank you so much. I'm going to miss the exciting part. Work hard. Thank you, candidates.
All right, thank you very much. So now we have roughly 10 minutes for you all to ask questions. So if you have a question, please raise your hands. Marcus.
What are you all going to do about the budget cuts made to the police force?
So what are you going to do about the budget cuts in the police force? Does anyone want to? Alan? Yeah.
Well, I won't be in power. I won't be able to do anything. Even if I do win, it'll be one or independents that will still not be able to control the purse strings. As I said, we need proportional representation because the tribalism of the two other parties at the far end is causing this problem across all budgets across the country. We need to get things like the policing and the National Health Service. We need cross-party support and cross-party money ideas on how it's going to be funded, because you can't just tax people to pay for all of this. You have to economise through service. You have to find other ways to raise revenue rather than just on the few people that are working.
Yeah, Yep, I'll follow it.
Okay.
Thank you. We we have a balanced budget. I have to keep stressing that because Labour has come out with a manifesto which near enough hits £1 trillion. I mean, just go home and write trillion and put the zeros. It's eye-watering. We have actually said we would get a benefit by staying in the EU, which is 50 billion. It's an underestimate because the economy will grow without having a bump if you have a Brexit. Yeah.
1 billion is 30k per working person.
So let's getting back to crime. We are actually going to invest £1 billion in policing, which fundamentally will provide minimum of two police per ward throughout the country. Community policing is the important thing within our community, because what this government has said, we were in the coalition, but they were the Home Secretary, etc. Under Theresa May in particular, they took the axe to the police. 20,000. Now what they're saying, they'll put 20,000 back. They're not putting anything back. They're taking it back. Whereas Labour is just saying 22,000. It's a numbers game for them. Okay, thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Anyone else? Marie?
When Conservative Party came into government in 2010 with the support of the Liberal Democrats, for every £4 that was being spent by the Labour government that we took over from, £1 was being borrowed. That was unsustainable. The economy was in a mess. And I think actually a Labour minister called Liam Byrne put it best when he said, "There is no money left, sorry." Now he might have been sorry, but we're the ones who've been picking up the pieces ever since, because too much money was being spent. And all of you know is if you have £4 in your bank account, if you have £3 in your bank account and you spend £4, you're in trouble. And we had to change that to get the economy back on track. And I think all of you can see the economy is now getting back on track, so we can start to think about how we're going to spend that money in the future. And the Conservative Party have made it very clear, policing is a priority. And I know here many of you, how many people are studying the public services course who want to go into the police force? So lots of you will want to go in. Many of you will take the specials route in. But many of you will want to go into the police force, and there will be significant opportunities for you there, and fantastic to see so many of the women in the audience as well saying that they want to go into the force too. Thank you.
And I just mentioned that £1 trillion is around about £30,000 for every working person in this country. So when you get all these big numbers, be aware what it boils down to individual people.
As I said earlier, 20,000 police officers taken away, 21,000 police officers taken away, 20 put back did not replace those officers. We're going to put 22,000 police officers back, and we are going to pay it by taxing the top percent of earners. That's people who are earning over £80,000. Now, I don't think anyone sitting in this room or their parents possibly earn that amount of money. We're going to be taxing people who have offshore accounts. We're going to start taxing those and finding that income. And this is how we are going to fund our vital services. I also like the Labour manifesto because we're thinking regionally. We're not just thinking about London. And in Hampshire we lose out on police officers because the formula is set in London, and it's how many officers per licensed premises and population. So that's why in Hampshire we've only got about 150 police officers back. If you look at a place with the population of Basingstoke, we need more officers in Basingstoke because we're more densely populated. And that's why it takes 5 minutes. It took an hour for a police car to come to an elderly lady in distress in Winkleby last Saturday, because it's a shortage of officers, and that's why that formula doesn't work.
if the answer's A, yes. Yeah.
Why is it that if we leave EU, that volunteers have been told that it's a state of emergency and they will have to help fill in the emergency services?
Okay, so why is it when we leave the EU that volunteers will have to fill in for the emergency services? Should we kick off with Karina with Labour, please?
This is why Parliament worked extremely hard to get hold of Operation Yellowhammer, because we wanted to find exactly what a no-deal Brexit would do to us. And I can tell you that there will be a shortage of medical supplies. There will be a shortage of drugs like insulin. I know Hancock has bought up every single fridge he can find, but you cannot keep insulin for more than that amount of time. We're going to have lorries queuing all the way to Dover. We're going to have riots because don't forget, just over half the population voted to leave and just under voted to remain. And people feel very, very angry. And unless we handle Brexit properly, which neither the Conservatives say, get Brexit behind us, let's get it done, move on, or the Lib Dems saying, bollocks to Brexit, we're going to revoke Article 50. That doesn't respect half of you. And we've got to handle Brexit in order to bring this country together and prevent an emergency.
One of the reasons why we need to have a parliament that can make a decision on Brexit is because we don't want to have a situation where anything like that would ever happen. But it's right that people plan for every eventuality. That's what we'd expect the government to do. And for all of you who want to be in the police force, you'll know that a lot of the work of the police force is planning for events we absolutely hope will never happen. But you have to have those plans in place. What worries me most about the last 3 years is the amount of scaremongering that's gone on around Brexit that has undermined people's trust in politics. And I speak as somebody who thinks that actually it's really important that people trust our democratic processes. But when I read in the papers Liberal Democrats saying that the M3 is going to be used as a car park for Portsmouth, when no such plan was ever in place, or indeed that people might not have their medical supplies, which is not the plan at all, then I really worry about how corrosive this situation is, and we need to get Brexit done. Thank you.
I mean, I must put this absolutely correct. I mean, we are not the specialists in fake news. They are, because they have a Twitter account which actually said they are fact-checking. Fact-checking for whom? Themselves, not for you folks. So we have to actually get this absolute, and their cheerleader of lying is Boris Johnson. Do you want to have Boris Johnson as your Prime Minister who would continue to lie to you? I'll tell you something else, which won't come as a surprise to any of you. He keeps saying the no deal is not off the table. You know, he's not threatening the EU. He absolutely not threatening the EU. He's threatening people like you, young lady. He's telling you, the citizen, the people, you are going to suffer, and I will make you suffer if you doesn't play ball. Is that the man you want as your Prime Minister? Do you want Maria to represent you as a Conservative MP? Up to you guys.
Now, this is the kind of scaremongering that's been really, really putting this country down ever since Brexit started. It is bang out of order. This country can survive outside the EU. It will survive. It survived very, very well before the EU, and it will continue afterwards. The drug situation may be a slight hiccup, but it won't be long, but I tell you, before the other drug companies around the world suddenly realise there's an open market here and beat the doors down to try selling us insulin and all the other drugs that we need. So it's not going to be a problem at all. I'm looking forward to the EU, us leaving the EU, because I know that there are so many more opportunities for small businesses and big businesses throughout the rest of the world. Now, back to your question, which was more about the voluntary services. The government has to make contingency plans for worst case scenarios. everybody should do that in business anyway. They need to know what the worst thing that could happen. Volunteer services are brilliant. I was working with the Scouts and the Venture Scouts most of my early years, so I did a lot of voluntary work with all those. Okay, I'm just in the middle of them.
So thank you for all the great questions and discussions. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. But now I'd like to offer each candidate a couple of minutes to summarise today's discussion and to make some closing statements. So we'll start with the candidate on the left. Will be Karina.
This is your election. This is an election for your future. And if you can vote, vote for your future. And if you can't vote, tell your parents what future you want. We are going to deal with Brexit by offering you a people's vote so that you can decide whether you want to remain or whether you want to leave with a credible deal, not the botched deal that Johnson has negotiated. And we are giving you a chance, who didn't have a chance in the referendum, to vote on your future with the EU. This is a tipping point for climate emergency. If you want a future for the planet, if you want a future for your children and your children's children, Labour's Green New Deal is the only way forward, and I urge you to read about our Green New Deal and vote for that. Voting for Labour, you're voting for your education, your employment, your housing and your future.
Well, I think you've seen from the discussion today that you've got a very clear choice at this election. You can vote Conservative and you can get Brexit done, or you can vote for any of the other parties and you can see more delay, more dithering and more elections next year. I think people have just about had it up to the back teeth of having elections. We just need to get on and enact the decisions that have already been made. I'd like to use the rest of my minute or two just to put one thought in your mind. When I asked how many people here are studying to go into public service, there were actually a lot of people put their hands up. And I think that public service ethos is not only strong in BCoT, it's strong in Basingstoke. And I hope that, as well as considering going into the police force, going into the armed services, going into our NHS, or doing anything else in the public sector, that you could also consider standing for election in the future. When I was elected in 2005, I was the 265th woman to ever be elected to Parliament. I was shocked when I found that out. There are so few women elected to Parliament. There are still only just 400 women who've ever been elected into Parliament. So for every woman sitting in this room, I throw down the challenge to think about standing for election when you've been a police officer or whatever else you're thinking of doing, because your contribution is hugely valuable, so that we don't just have the same old suspects going into Parliament, that we have new people, new blood with new ideas. And for all of you, I hope you'll take that away from this today. And if you are interested, there's a website called Ask Her to Stand, which I'm sure the men could look at as well, but there's lots of women in this room. Ask Her to Stand, which will link you up with your political party locally, so that you can get to know more about how you can stand for election, maybe not for Parliament at the moment, but for the local elections next year. And if you're 18, you can stand for election. And I'm really proud that the Conservatives locally here in Basingstoke have had a representative who's 21, just 4 years ago now, stand for election and get elected as well. So, the person who got elected about 10 years ago, and he's now an MP actually, Ranald Jordner. So it's really important that you consider doing that, maybe not now, but in the future. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm going to spend the next 3 minutes not giving you a lecture, but tell you the reality of life. We have been a Remain party consistently. We have never dithered from it, never wavered from it, because we believe that's the best way for your future. I got into politics only in 2016. I'm not a career politician at all. I left the industry, retired. I was comfortable. I retired early because I worked hard and did what I had to do. I'm retired, but I saw what was happening and going to happen for your future, my children, my grandchildren. I could not stand and watch it happen. I had to do something. So I joined a party which I believe is truly a Remain party, which is fundamentally is the youngsters' party. The Tory party is run by old. I don't want to say that. I'm getting old as well.
I think we just had a female Prime Minister as well, so don't say
yeah.
old men.
Well, we have been actually trying very hard to get this right. I mean, Tory party had an option to actually get this done at the last parliament. You know who stopped it? They don't tell you this. Rees-Mogg, Boris Johnson, yeah, they voted against Theresa May's withdrawal agreement. Now they're saying we are stopping it. We are not. We have been consistent to get the best deal for you. What has happened to now, today, is only a withdrawal agreement from the EU. The deal itself is not done. Lead deals with other countries. I'm talking to you as a businessman now, pure businessman. For 35 years, I ran companies. No deal can be done overnight. If Boris is relying on Trump, forget it. Trump is going to lie similar to Boris. Two liars getting together, no deal will be done. Absolutely none. Yeah, it's going to end up in a longer, painful process for us. Absolutely painful. What we're offering is a simple option. I've got only 30 seconds. I'll give you that option and stop. If you vote for the Lib Dems, we will become the power brokers who will hold the country, both these parties in balance. We will give it back to you folks on a referendum, a deal or withdrawal agreement from Boris or Corbyn, or a referendum to remain within EU. The choice is your future.
Shall we ignore that referendum too? Well, that's my opinion. Listen, I'm not going to say too much. I've got 3 minutes. I doubt I'm going to use them. Well, I'm going to urge you all to take responsibilities for your own lives. Neither government departments, government offices or the Labour Party will look after you entirely. Take responsibility for yourself, take responsibility for your actions, and the world will be good, or at least a lot better than it is now. If you're looking at climate change, us as a country is producing 1% of the CO2 across the whole world. Look at the countries that are producing the worst problems. We've got China, we've got India, we've got America. If us as consumers stop buying products made in their countries until they clean that act up, then we are actually doing the best we can. So look at that, because that's really important. Where you buy your clothes, where you buy your products, where your iPhone's made, because rare earth elements inside those phones are wrecking some of the economies and some of the countryside in other countries, whilst of course our countryside is staying reasonably nice. Now back into politics. When you read the headlines, please look beyond that, because the devil is always in the detail. These huge numbers that both these parties are talking about is going to come out of taxation some way or another, because it cannot be given for free. As I said earlier, £1 trillion is £30,000 per working person. That's not people that aren't working, that's what it's going to cost every working person in taxation at some point. So look at the details. Maria talks about local politics. It is very, very easy to get involved with your local councillors and look after it and help look after your own area. They are willing and able, every one of them, all parties. Local councillors are normally very, very good, decent people that don't get paid much money. They get paid a little bit of expensive, basically, a few £1,000 a year just to cover the cost of their times. Get involved, find out who your local ones are, or if you can't find one with a party you like, do something yourself. Stand as an independent, because although you might not win, you do get to get in front of people and tell them what you think. and that washes off sometimes. So, thank you.
Okay, so thank you all, and I hope everyone will join me in thanking the candidates and the teams there, and also the tech department as well for their time. We hope you enjoyed the session. Please get involved on the discussion on the hashtag FE Student Debate, and that's all for today. Thank you very much.